Market observations for the city of Playford in Adelaide, South Australia. Now, you might know this area better by the suburbs that generally comprise of the local government area, the Elizabeth South, Elizabeth North, Elizabeth East and everywhere else, Elizabeth. It is a city of Playford. It is generally classified as low to mid socio-economic, working class South Australia. There are some definite gotchas. It has been the home of relatively good capital growth nationwide for the last few years and high yields. But I have seen a lot of investors really burnt by this area, potentially buying many years ago because of the yields and then being left with a really poor performing investment between cycles. So let's dive in today. Is there still opportunity in the city of Playford? Which suburbs, which streets and even which properties should we be paying our attention to? Overall, property investment is a science. I'm going to get through this bit quickly today. We've got to look at this objectively, guys. We can't let our emotions come to the table. Firstly, I want to look at a longer term perspective. The where. Is the city of Playford worthy of our attention when we look across the entire country? Unemployment. Wow, that is scary, guys. High unemployment. The blue line here is trending back down towards 10%, but as of the last release here from ABS, we are at very high levels of unemployment. Okay, this has been rocked hard potentially by COVID. We need to see that this is recovering and getting in check. 10% unemployment is a major issue when you consider the nation has extremely low unemployment levels at the moment. Population increases, well, we're up almost at 2%. That's actually really high for South Australia. It's pretty average across the country, but for South Australia, that is actually excellent. South Australia is generally considered established, older money, low population. So a lot of the growth has occurred through Adelaide over the last few years. It's on the back of low population growth. That's not really the story in Adelaide. It's a similar amount of people having more money, right? That's generally what leads to capital growth in Adelaide. So whilst this is excellent, this is very good from an Adelaide perspective, it is still average nationwide, but good here at a local perspective. Now, I'm going to jump over to picki.com.au to perform our market opportunity analysis. Let's dive into this a little bit deeper. Look, if we're comparing apples with apples, if you lined every local government area in the country in order from best to worst, this is performing better than 80% of areas. Okay, so a lot of really good things are happening there. Overall, employment diversity is poor. I like to see diversity because it means we're not putting all of our eggs in the one basket. The one employer shuts up shop and goes somewhere better, then you're left, with really bad unemployment landscape. Income growth is low from a national perspective, and with high unemployment, big concerns here from an employment perspective. Commute time is great, but not many people are commuting because there's high unemployment. It's a moot point. So big thumbs down here from employment. I don't like those signs. For me, that's a really big consideration. And if that's all working against us, there's not really one shining light there from an employment study. It's a concern. Local services, we are very well serviced in the greater Adelaide area and from local area as well. All the big amenities are all pretty close by. Potentially the big one here is lifestyle factors. We are a long way from the beach, but we also have the wineries and rural up the road. We are closer to that than most of Adelaide. So there are, pluses and minuses. Overall, lifestyle factors are very good for Elizabeth. But once again, people are not coming here to retire. They're not coming here because they've, got work from home jobs on high ticket incomes. They're coming here because it is an affordable location. You don't really care about lifestyle factors when you don't have any money because you don't have a job. Right, I'm pretty blunt about that, but City of Playford, with the employment landscape the way that it is, we've got issues. Employment trumps lifestyle when the employment is not healthy. Is this likely to change? Is the employment landscape likely to improve based on new projects coming through the pipeline? Look, overall, we've got $8,000 per person being spent in the new construction pipeline. It is quite diverse, but we do have a focus there around industrial and retail hospitality, but a broad spectrum of new projects. And overall, this is an average amount to be spent per person. So whilst we have some big ticket items, overall, when you look at how many people live here, it is spread relatively thinly. Although, this for me, it could be a lot worse. This is actually pretty good for this type of outer capital city location. So that's probably a tick from me. So we've got a big cross, a small tick, and a average size tick here. I'm just following through the different studies that we're doing. Population growth. Let's dive down here to the bottom. 5.3% for the next 3 years. So that higher than average population growth is set to continue for the next 3 years. So that's a big tick, especially when you consider the context of South Australia, which usually averages around 1 to 1.5%. New construction in the pipeline. We have to be very, very sensitive of this, guys. Like a lot of Australia, where there is building, going on, where there is builders and trade materials, like at the periphery of many parts of the country, we do sometimes see higher levels of new construction. It's definitely the case here. Overall, at a local government area level, 4.7% new housing versus around 2% new population. So we've got, at a really basic level, oversupply going on here. But there are parts of the location which are less than there are parts of this local government area which actually have less new supply than the population, but there are some definite areas which are no-go zones, with over 1 in 4 new homes from the area, 25% new homes in the construction pipeline, definite no-go zones. So, look, overall, this is something that is a concern. We can navigate these waters by focusing on those suburbs with low new homes. You know, those areas that are pretty established, have very few vacant lots or subdivision opportunities. But then at a broader opportunity, we've got a lot of new homes coming into the area. You know, over 2 times the population for the greater area. So for me, why would someone come and buy or rent your established dwelling in a tightly held suburb when they can go and potentially rent around the corner, just around the corner, a brand new home, of which there are many, and potentially get a good deal on rents because all these new homes been built. So for me, whilst it is in the top 80% of all areas, the employment landscape for me is a bit of a concern. Overall, though, we could do a lot worse. We're actually looking at buying properties in and around these locations. There are a very particular couple of suburbs that we are looking at for private advisory clients. When you can navigate these waters successfully, potentially with some experience and background, you are able to find the opportunity. But overall, just concerned about that employment landscape. We do need to be able to navigate that. Let's just dive back into overall, is it the right time to be now buying in this location? So the overall opportunity we have assessed. Let's have a look. Is this the optimum buying window to be making our entry? We've got the red line here as houses. Days on market is just spiking up. Now it is still at very low levels, but it is trending in the wrong direction. So for me, that's a pass. Immediate sales, it's around the long-term average figure. We're not really gaining any information from that metric. Stock inventory did have a drop for some reason in August, back to normal levels now, but lower than the long-term average. So, not a huge amount of stock coming into the market right now, but we do know the pipeline is in the future and it is coming. Days on supply has been tightening, but we potentially have come off a market bottom. So this could be the turning point for this market to be reaching a peak. Asking price, it keeps powering upwards. Discounting has definitely slowed down and plateaued. We are already in a very heated market here, guys. We are very sensitive to a market top forming, if not already formed in the last month or two. When we are seeing properties selling for 13% higher than asking prices, which is pretty much the highest in the nation, it means that no one's really got an idea of what things are selling for. Finger up in the air, hope. Not hope. They're selling for a lot more than their expectations are. Very heated market. This is showing us that a top is coming, if not already come. We can see here vendor discounting has slowed down and if not come back. So sold prices have obviously come off a massive run here over the last 2 years. 250 up to all the way up to 400,000, 50% capital growth in 2 years. Expect this to start slowing down, right? That's our entry point. We've probably missed the boat, missed the buying window. There is still opportunity in this local government area. If you're working or you are an expert or you're working with an expert, you can pick the eyes out of it. You can still get the odd good deal in this very heated market top location, but they are few and far between. Rental analysis, this is an affordable location. So we generally see in affordable locations, I call them lipstick locations, that the rent side of the equation leads the buy side of the equation. In this example, the rental market is extremely tight. This is about the lowest time it takes you to rent a property in physical terms and across the country at the moment. Vacancy rates have just popped up over 1%, but still very low, but they are trending in the wrong direction. So I do want to monitor that one very closely. Weekly asking rents has topped out at 400. Is that a short-term top, or is that now the top of the rental cycle for some time? So things are really, I'm not seeing this underlying strength here for rent to drive the buy side. Check out some of my other recent videos where I do talk about that momentum in great detail. And, because rents have slowed down, property prices have still continued to push in the last 6 months. We have seen yields slowing down. This is definitely heading in the wrong direction, guys. For me, there is no buying window. We've missed the boat. Unless you are an expert and you're able to pick the eyes out of this area, I'll probably go into different parts of the country at this price point and look for other alternatives. If you did, gun to your head, have to buy here, potentially look at places like Adams Farm, Manupara West, Penfield, Blakeview. You've got to be really sensitive even in these areas. Let's have a look at Adams Farm around public housing. High levels of public housing, notorious for the city of Playford, Elizabeth, crime issues, public housing issues. We really have to get this street level right, guys. Remember, the observations I made before were at a local government area level. When we dive into the suburb, we can still see some suburbs which might be 6 or 12 months behind the others. So Adams Farm at a suburb level is saying that it is still in the buying window. I want to see, are vacancy rates in this suburb stable or increasing? They've just come off, they're probably on the way down. Are vacancy rates low or lower than the average across the LGA? Yes, they are. That's a really strong sign. Has there been recent growth? I generally actually like to see suburbs that have had consolidation recently, which form a base for things to move off on. And then days of supply, higher than the average across the local government area, but still very low overall across the nation. Now, when you come into these suburbs, sometimes there is a huge amount of public housing. This particular suburb is not exposed to that. We need to be really careful with the city of Playford for public housing. Overall, this suburb, Andrews Farm, is not really exposed to public housing. For these suburban capital city areas, anything less than 10% is generally okay. Owner-occupier levels, we want 2/3, especially in these working class areas. We want a lot of owner-occupiers. Around that 60 to 65%, if not more, owner-occupiers. So the northern area of this suburb here in the deep purple is where the owner-occupiers choose. Definitely stay away from this zone down here in the south. We want to be focusing on large land or larger land and houses. So focus on these pink areas here. Once again, we've got overlap between owner-occupiers and houses. Where are the more expensive properties selling? It's interesting. All the way along here on the west. And where are also higher rents associated with higher purchase prices, owner-occupiers, and high numbers of houses. Think about this. It's really powerful when you can find areas with lots of owner-occupiers, owner-occupier appeal, but really tight tenancy markets that have above average rent and above average yield. This is my pocket here, guys. This is really standing out, if not these two next door. This is my sweet spot in this suburb. This is how I would analyse city of Playford. Remember, take the time to go through the public housing data for each suburb. We want to get down to the individual street sweet spots. There's a lot of features coming that are really relevant to this type of analysis. For me, if my understanding you know, there are definitely better areas in the city of Playford right now across the country. Probably should have been focusing here 6 to 12 months ago if you're going it alone. As an expert, there are still some deals to be done here in the right suburbs and streets, but you've really got to have your wits about you, and you've got to be on the ball in terms of getting those deals done and negotiating effectively. If you like this content, you'd like to see more of it, please jump into comments. If you see anyone talking about Adelaide in any forums, property, etc., love it if you could share this link to the video if you do find it would be useful to others. Thank you. Talk to you soon.